Hi, I'm Helen. Let me take you on a journey that reshaped everything I thought I knew about trust and betrayal. At 26, I was already juggling the demands of my career as a dedicated nurse with the complexities of my personal life. Long shifts at a bustling hospital often meant skipping breaks, all to make sure my patients received the best care. Despite the exhaustion, I found fulfillment in knowing I made a difference every day. But outside the hospital's busy corridors, a different kind of challenge was brewing, one I never anticipated. It wasn't an external crisis, but something much closer to home. Financial strain had always seemed to loom over my parents. Whether it was failed investments or unexpected medical bills, they constantly found themselves in need of help. Their stories of hardship were convincing, and I couldn't help but sympathize. "We just need a little help to get back on our feet," they'd say, and I believed them, assuming their need was temporary. Driven by loyalty and love, I made a decision that I come to regret. I handed over my credit card, believing their assurances that it was just for the short term. What was meant to be a temporary lifeline turned into an open-ended financial well that they continued to draw from. At first, the deception was subtle. I was too wrapped up in work to notice the mounting signs. When I saw new gadgets in their home or heard them casually mention dining at expensive restaurants, I did it twice. They always had an explanation. "Just a small treat, we've been feeling down." I'd nod, too tired to question further. But eventually, the pieces started to fall into place. It began with small hints, like a brand new TV in their living room or a designer watch on my father's wrist. Still, they brushed off my growing concerns. Then, one evening, I came home to find a luxurious handbag at my door, purchased with my credit card. The nagging suspicion I'd been ignoring turned into a cold, undeniable truth. The confrontation was inevitable. As I drove to their house, the weight of their betrayal bore down on me. I walked in, holding the handbag, my voice shaking. "Mom, Dad, where did this come from?" "Oh, Helen, do you like it? We thought it might cheer you up. You've been working so hard," my mom replied, her tone unnervingly cheerful. "With my asterisk credit card, this has to stop. We need to talk about all these expenses." My voice was firm as I laid out months of credit card statements across the table, each one a painful testament to their deceit. Their expressions shifted from surprise to defensiveness, but the truth was out. The room filled with a heavy silence as the extent of their actions became painfully clear. It all came to a head one day at the bank. "What do you mean, declined?" I asked, staring at the loan officer, my disbelief turning into panic. "My credit should be excellent." "I'm sorry, Helen," she said, "but your debt-to-income ratio is too high. And these recent charges, they're quite extravagant." I grabbed the printout, my eyes scanning over the charges. Hawaii, designer boutiques, none of it was mine. That's when it hit me. My parents hadn't just crossed the line, they'd obliterated it. I stormed into their house, armed with months of transaction records. "Mom, Dad, we need to talk." Asterisk now asterisk, I slapped the papers onto the kitchen table. "Helen, what's all this?" "You're scaring us," my mom said, glancing at the statements. "Scaring you? Look at these charges. Hawaii, luxury boutiques. Were you planning to tell me?" We just needed a little break," my dad stammered. "A little happiness." "Happiness? At my expense? Without even asking? Do you realize I can't even get a loan because of what you've done?" My voice cracked under the weight of anger and hurt. "We thought you wouldn't mind. You've always helped us before," my mom whispered, unable to meet my highs. I mind a lot. This isn't helping, it's stealing. You can living a life of luxury on my hard work. How could you do this to your own daughter?" Their silence said everything. Heads bowed, they finally whispered, "We're sorry, Helen. It got out of hand." "Sorry doesn't fix my credit score or rebuild the trust you've shattered," I said, taking my credit card back. "This stops now. No more access to my finances. I'm protecting myself from here on out." And just like that, I began the painful journey of reclaiming not only my financial stability but also the trust I had so freely given. "Helen, we need your help. Without you, we know," I interrupted, my voice firm. "You need to figure out how to manage without using me and not your bank. If you had been honest, maybe we could have worked something out, but not now. I need to protect myself." As I left their house, the air felt heavy, charged with the weight of what had just happened. I drove home, my mind racing, trying to process each revelation. This wasn't just about money, it was about respect and autonomy. I had been their safety net, their endless bank, but no more. When I turned the key in my front door, I felt like I was stepping into a new chapter of my life, one where I was no longer a victim of their choices, but the architect of my own future. As the day of their departure loomed, I felt a mix of dread and determination. Watching my parents pack, their excited chatter about beaches and luas made my heart ache. They were so caught up in their fantasy, funded by my hard work, that they didn't even notice the storm brewing within me. "Hey, I got you a new credit card," I said, handing it to them. "The old one's been acting up, keeps getting declined at the scanner. I don't want you guys to have any issues on your trip." "Oh, Helen, you always take such good care of us." "Thank you, sweetheart," Mom replied, her voice full of gratitude that stung with irony as she swapped the cards without a second glance. "Make sure you keep it safe and don't lose it, okay?" I added, trying to steady my voice. "Of course, darling. We'll be careful," Dad said, giving me a quick hug. I hugged back, my stomach churning with mixed emotions. Once they drove off to the airport, a weight lifted, but another settled in its place, anticipation of what was to come. I headed back inside, my steps heavy. For the next few days, I checked my online banking app obsessively, anxiety growing with each passing hour. Then, it happened. The first notification popped up, a declined charge at a luxury resort for a lavish dinner. I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Later that evening, another alert. A spa treatment declined again. I could almost picture the scene. Mom and Dad, relaxed and unsuspecting, suddenly puzzled as the spa attendant handed back the card with a polite frown. "I'm sorry, there seems to be a problem with your card. It's been declined." "That can't be right," Dad would insist, his voice confident but tinged with embarrassment. "Run it again, please." After the third attempt and another apology, their confusion would turn into frustration. I imagined them stepping aside, calling the credit card company as their dream vacation slowly unraveled. The phone rang late that night. I let it go to voicemail. Mom's voice, tinged with panic, came through. "Helen, darling, there's something wrong with the card. We can't pay for our treatments, and they're quite upset. Could you check on it for us?" I waited, collecting my thoughts before returning the call. "Mom, I'm looking into it. I'll see what I can do," I lied, guilt twisting inside me. But I reminded myself this was necessary. They needed to understand the consequences of their actions. The next day brought more declined transactions: shopping, a helicopter tour, a gourmet lunch. Each alert was a step closer to their realization and my emancipation. This tough love was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but it was necessary for my survival. They had to learn, and this was a lesson only reality could teach. The phone rang again early in the morning, its sharp sound cutting through the silence. I braced myself as I answered. Dad's voice, usually so sure, now trembled with desperation. "Helen, please. We need your help. We can't pay for the hotel. They won't let us check out until we settle the bill." Taking a deep breath, I steadied my voice. "Dad, no, I won't bail you out this time. Do you realize what you've done? Years of lying, using me, enough is enough. But we're your parents, Helen. You can't just leave us stranded. We apologized, okay. We're sorry. Sorry doesn't change the past. It doesn't erase the debt you've piled up in my name or rebuild my credit. You need to understand the consequences of your actions." "We really didn't think it would come to this," Mom chimed in, her voice pleading. "We thought we could manage it, that you wouldn't have to know." "Not have to know. You committed fraud in my name," I said, the weight of their betrayal heavy in the silence of my kitchen. "I've taken steps to prevent any further damage. The card you have is canceled. You need to figure out how to get back on your own." "But we have nothing here, no money, not even for a flight back." "Please, just this one last time," Dad begged. "No, Dad, this is the hard lesson you need to learn. From now on, you handle your finances and I'll handle mine. There will be no more mixing, no more helping out. It's time for you both to take responsibility." As their protests grew more frantic, I felt a pang of sorrow for the parents I once thought I had. But that sorrow was quickly overshadowed by a firm sense of duty to myself. "I need to go now," I said, my voice calm but resolute. "I hope you find a way back, and I truly hope you learn from this. Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Dad." I hung up the phone. The finality of the moment settled over me, heavy and unmistakable. The bridge had been burned and the ties were cut. It was a decision forged from years of hidden exploitation, now painfully exposed. I sat down, emotions swirling, grief for what was lost, but also a burgeoning sense of freedom from the financial chains I had unknowingly worn for so long. The house was quiet, too quiet, as if it too was exhaling a sigh of relief. This was my new reality. I was no longer a victim, but a survivor. No longer a daughter manipulated by familial guilt, but an independent woman stepping boldly into a future I would dictate. As I stood in my modest apartment, watching the sun dip below the city skyline, the weight of my decision settled around me like a cloak. It was done. The calls to the credit companies, the fraud alerts, the consultations with a financial advisor, every step had been meticulously taken to safeguard my future. In the stillness of my living room, I made a call to legal services, not out of spite, but necessity. This wasn't about revenge, it was about preventing future betrayals. Yes, I'd like to discuss options for financial fraud committed by family members, I said, my voice steady. The reassurances were a balm to my frayed nerves. Each action, each decision, felt like another chain falling away. A life once defined by others' needs and deceit was being shed as I forged a new path, one that was undeniably mine. Filling out the paperwork with a steady hand, I detailed the years of financial abuse. Submitting it felt like closing a long open door that had let in nothing but storms. This is to protect my future, I reminded myself, a mantra that helped ease the sting of reporting my own parents. The days that followed were a blur of activity, meetings with my bank to restructure my accounts, setting up new financial protections, and therapy sessions to untangle the guilt and betrayal that had knotted my thoughts. One evening, after a particularly long day, I found a letter slipped under my door. It was from Mom and Dad. My hands trembled as I opened it, expecting more pleas for forgiveness or manipulative excuses. But instead, it was an apology, a real one, or at least as real as it could be under the circumstances. We understand now the pain we caused, they wrote. And while we can't undo the past, we hope you find it in your heart to someday forgive us. We are getting the help we need to manage our finances and our lives. I let the letter fall to the counter, a sense of finality washing over me. Forgiveness felt like a road too far and too winding to contemplate just yet. Right now, it was about me, healing and building a life I deserved. That night, as I sat watching another sunset, a cup of tea warming my hands, a profound peace settled within me. The ties that had bound me were not just loosened, they were severed, leaving me free to build a future on my terms. A future not dictated by guilt or manipulation, but driven by my own desires, my integrity, and the lessons learned from this painful yet liberating journey. I was no longer just Helen, the daughter, the nurse, the enabler. I was Helen, the survivor, the architect of her own destiny. And as the sun disappeared, leaving a sky streaked with colors of hope, I knew I was exactly where I needed to be. Free. Now that Helen has taken bold steps to free herself from financial and emotional manipulation, how would you handle a similar situation with someone close to you? Would you be able to make the tough decisions necessary to protect yourself? Let's discuss in the comments below. Share your thoughts and experiences. If you found Helen's journey inspiring or thought-provoking, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. Your support helps us bring these important narratives to light. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to hearing your comments.